I think there was a certain point where I was in a situation where I thought I was going to have to stop making music. It was really scary. But to me, it's like that kind of sets up where I wanted to go with the story and like the concept. And it's just about surrender and trust and faith when you do not know what God is doing or what's going to happen. And that's kind of what we have to do while we're here on earth.
Welcome to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. Rated R.
You have some criminal charges with you, bro. Guess we're avoiding the shark. Call it leather fetish.
No, today Turbo Neck Day.
I'll give you a kiss. You give me your number.
That checked out a ton, dude. Tell me you felt. We're Americans. We're the ones that are descendants from the 1776 musket-bearing motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Spencer Whiteout podcast, where we collect experiences as badges, memories as treasures, and stories as wealth. In this episode, I interview Christian rock and worship artist Stephen Stanley. We talk all about his musical journey, writing process, favorite lyrics, tough times, and what it means to walk by faith, not by sight. Let's dive in. So I know you've told this story a million times before, but it is such a cool origin story. You got to talk about the jet ski accident and how that put you on the path you're on today.
Yeah. When I was 9, I was on a jet ski at a friend's house. And I don't know exactly what happened. I was riding jet ski by myself. I didn't have a life jacket on or anything. Maybe I went too close to land or something, but my friend and his dad saw the jet ski like fly up in the air with me on it. So I ended up losing hearing in my left ear. They life flighted me to the hospital and all kinds of stuff. And I was so young that my inner ears were off because I had lost hearing, so my balance was off. Couldn't really play outside. I played like Little League baseball and stuff. So I was stuck inside for a few months. And, you know, my mom, instead of getting me like a GameCube or something or put me in front of the TV, she taught me how to play guitar, bought some like DVDs to learn guitar chords and stuff too. And yeah, that's how I started playing music and just never stopped.
And that just reminds me of like Romans 8:28, how God works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So I feel like that relates.
Totally. Absolutely.
And so you've always known from that young age that this is what you're going to do?
Yeah, I think so. I immediately loved it, which I think that's the story of a lot of musicians. Like you grow up in church and there's all these instruments and, you know, you can go learn. I just never stopped playing music and I knew that was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot too, just because ever since I got a camera in my hand since I was a young kid, it was like that was the only thing I was just ultra passionate about, and I always wanted to make videos with my friends, and in a way I kind of felt like, man, this is the only thing I'm passionate about. And I remember in high school I sold my video game console to get a camera, like a nicer camera. And it's like, dude, what high schooler does that? It was all about, you know, making skate videos with my friends and stuff. And I look back and I'm like, man, that was a good decision. And I'm glad I did that.
Do you want to make a feature film, or have you already made a feature?
I have already made a feature. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, it's called Space Waves. It's a coming of age comedy drama, and it's on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube.
Oh, dude. I'm going to go check that out when we hang up, dude. I'm going to see it.
Yeah, man. I'd love for you to check it out. It's a really personal story about friendship and forgiveness and the changing of life seasons. And it's about these two guys that podcast in a small town because they got to make their own adventures.
I've got a friend that's going through this right now. He just shot his first feature film. He's like mid-30s. And we're talking about like I might do some music for it or something. But what does that feel like to like actually make a movie? Like a feature-length movie?
It feels like a 5-year investment and $50,000 and
Dang,
the most fulfilling, satisfying, incredible journey.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
We definitely bit off more than we could chew, especially because we were like, you know what? Let's make a feature-length documentary about this as well.
Oh gosh, that's awesome though. That's really cool.
You know, like I was telling you earlier about like capturing experiences and stuff, like we just started telling the story behind the story. And like originally it was supposed to be like, oh, let's do like a 20-minute behind the scenes thing. And because of all the ups and downs and all the craziness we experienced, I mean, everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Like,
oh yeah, dude.
We had our picture vehicle die on day 2. The main location, the tower that we were going to shoot at, got destroyed. Actors falling through, a main hard drive failure, like everything you could think of, we had to just keep pushing through. It was a nightmare, but we all got through it, and we got through stronger together. Yeah. And now that documentary came out. It's called Beast Mode, and it's like 1 hour and 40 minutes. It's longer than the film itself.
That's awesome.
But they're both 2 amazing products, and I love it, man. And that's what I want to keep doing. Yeah. I just want to keep making movies.
I'm fascinated by it. Obviously, music is the art form that I chose, but the filmmaking is, I'm fascinated by it. There's a lot of people that can say they've made an album or made a song, but there's maybe a few thousand people that can say that they've made a movie. Like that's just insane. Like it's an insane feat. Yeah.
It's a much bigger barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And now, I am like, man, why did I choose this? You know, but it's like a part of me is like, dude, I don't feel like I chose this. I feel like I'm, called into this. Like, I feel like this is where God wants me to be. And like, I really want to redefine Christian cinema, because so much of it sucks, in my opinion, and so much of it is just like, dude, I don't relate to any of this. And I want to speak to those people that feel like they are the forgotten Christians and the forgotten audience.
Dude, we should be making, and I think this goes to music too, like Christians should be making the best art that there is. We did that in the past. I mean, go look at the Sistine Chapel. Like, some of the greatest art ever created was created by Christians. I feel like art is improving in the Christian world, and I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, and we're created to create, and if we have the Holy Spirit inside of us, like, why wouldn't we be the most creative? And it's frustrating to see so many Christians either just not taking the calling seriously, or cowering away, or just following what the world is doing. It's like so much of Christian art feels very like 10 years behind the time, whether it be movies or music or whatever. And so that's part of why I really wanted to reach out to you, because I think what you're doing is super fresh. All the genres you're able to dip into, it's very eclectic, and there's only a handful of Christian artists that are sticking to their beliefs and being courageous about that, and also making really good art that stands the test of time and stands on its own.
Oh, dude, I appreciate that. I mean, I just had a meeting with Apple Music, Steve Blair, who's kind of over Christian music, and he's really pushing his playlists to involve a lot of like newer, younger artists. And he said the explosion right now with like indie Christian artists just making whatever they want to make, he said it's insane. And it's the second fastest growing genre on Apple Music right now is Christian music, which is insane. So there is this wave coming. I think it's going to involve film and television and all kinds of things. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. And just everything I've been hearing too with like, where America's heading. Like, I've been seeing all these headlines about like, oh, Bible sales are up like hundreds of % in the last year and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, okay, this is good, man.
I'm hearing like, I don't know what I'm Gen Z. Are you millennial or Gen Z?
Yeah, I'm 29, so I'm a millennial. How old are you?
Okay. I just turned 29. I'm like, 1996 was the cutoff.
We can't claim Gen Z. You're a part of Gen Z. I guess you are. You're all on TikTok. I looked it up on Google. They set up, but hey, we're right there in the middle though. Either way, like we're like right at the cutoff of one of them, dude. But I'm seeing all kinds of statistics. Like Gen Z is way more interested in Christianity, religion in general. It's like 70% more than millennials were. Like Gen Zers aren't breaking the law as much. There's like tons, like less teen pregnancy than millennial, like all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, dang, are we better? Like, or if I'm a millennial, are they better than me? Or I don't know. Well, it's crazy you brought up all those things. Like the pregnancy thing makes sense because more and more young people don't know how to interact in like real relationships, and probably less sex is happening, But,
sure.
But then also, like you said about, they're also searching for hope because they are so depressed and anxious, and like they're searching for real answers. And there's so much noise and garbage out there with all the news and just every headline, everything going on the internet. It's like, it's exhausting. And so, people come to that place of really looking for the truth. And like, obviously that's found in Jesus, that's found in the word. And so, I think there's a lot of factors that are playing into that. But I've been hearing a lot of similar stuff too. So, Stephen, I want to hear you retell this story. This is a funny, quick anecdote. I saw this on an interview a couple years ago. You were talking about one time you gave advice to a young musician and you called on the phone and you talked for 10 minutes of gold. And then how did that guy respond?
Oh, geez.
Do you remember this?
I'm trying to remember what he said. He called me. He wanted advice on like writing and recording music. And he wanted to make Christian music. And I just talked for 10 minutes straight. He didn't say a thing. He didn't like say yeah or like any, like just the whole time. And I was just giving him some just kind of work ethic type things, like things to know and like prepare for if he really wants to do it, because it's going to be, difficult. And I get done speaking. I was like, what do you think, man? He's like, yeah, I got to go. He just hangs up. There you go. Never heard from him again.
I gotta go.
What did I say? Do you know what I actually said? I can't remember.
I think that was it. That's what I wrote in my notes is, okay, thanks, I gotta go.
Yeah.
That was just such a quintessential, like, perfect story. I thought that was so funny because this path isn't for everybody and it is a ton of work. And like some people, they hear all that and they go, okay, yeah, this ain't for me,
Well, dude, I kind of realize now I did that back in the day. I won't say his name because somebody might know who he is, but he's a big time musician. Like he plays with this massive artist right now, but he was also produced a bunch of hit records. And I called him when I was 15 and I was like, hey, I want to make Christian music. Will you listen to this EP I made? And I sent it to him. He listened to it and he called me like a day later and was like, dude, this is like quoting. He's like, dude, your music really sucks. He's like, it's really bad. Christian music is changing right now. He's like, I just don't think this is for you. You need to go be a worship leader at a church. And that was the end of the conversation. And I was like, dang. But I've heard other people do this kind of mind game too before, because this happened a second time to me as well with another person where they were like, you need to do something else. The real people are going to stay no matter what another person says.
Right. Yeah.
So that may have been the game he was playing, or he was just being kind of mean. But sometimes like a lot of people, if you tell them what it takes and like what you're going to have to do, it's so hard to understand. Like if you tell someone who's 17 and they want to make music, like you're going to have to make sacrifices. And in their mind, they're like, sacrifice what? Like I'm living at home. Like I don't have a job. My dad's paying my phone bill. I don't really have anything. But it's like when you get married or you have a girlfriend or whatever, it's like, no, you're gonna have to be away from them. You're gonna have to go play shows and be places, or you're gonna miss your brother's birthday, or, there's gonna be a death in the family. You're gonna be on the other side of the country, stuff like that just you don't think about. So it's, yeah.
And Stephen, what I love about your music is the fact that you're singing in the midst of a struggle. And you said a quote here that perfectly sums it up. You said, I don't want to write the standard Christian song where the verse is everything is bad, the chorus is everything is good now, and the bridge is like everything is really good now. Can I just write a song about where I'm at right now and just express what's going on?
Yeah. You know about film. I always think about film when I'm making music. Like, how does a story work? 80% of the story is the plot. It's not till that last like 10, 20% of the film where things are resolved. And, whatever happens. But the interesting part to me is like the part where the bad guy's got the girl and he's like, I'm going to kill her. And or if you don't do this or whatever. And the guy's got to like make a decision and he's down and he doesn't know what he's going to do. That's like the interesting, most intense part of the story. And that's kind of where I like the songs to sit until the end. Like I'll use the end a lot of times to sort of resolve without really resolving. There's this song coming out called Hell or High Water where nothing really resolves until the end. But yeah, I think if we just set up a song and like we set up the problem in the verse, resolve it in the chorus, and then verse 2, I don't know what verse 2 is after that point. I mean, you can't go back to where you were in verse 1. That's just not how a story works. It's also, I love the book of Habakkuk. It's great. Basically, like the gist of it is Habakkuk is speaking to God directly. There's all kinds of like murder and violence and corruption going on in Israel. And he's like, why? Why can't you just come down here and do something about it? The whole time it's lament. It's him saying, God, please step in and fix this. And God's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to send the Babylonians to come conquer everyone and destroy everything. And Habakkuk's like, that's not what I meant. Like, I want you to can you just supernaturally come here and save everybody? And they have this discussion, but God doesn't really answer what he's going to do. They're like fighting the whole time. He's like, the Babylonians are way worse than the Israelites, so why would you do that? And God sort of reveals some things to him, but not everything. It's not resolved. But the end of the book ends with a prayer, and Habakkuk writes his prayer, and it's just about surrender and trust and faith. And that's what this new album is about. It's about trust when you do not know what God is doing or what's going to happen. And that's kind of what we have to do while we're here on earth. There is some victory here on earth, but it's short term. There is no real victory until we're with him and in the presence of God. So those are the stories that I want to tell. It's like, while we're here, let's talk about what we're going through. For me, I've had to rely and trust God a lot, so that's what the record's about.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. And you grew up in a Christian circle. Dad was a pastor, both parents somewhat musically talented. What was the reasoning behind you trying out the worship leader thing and then realizing that that wasn't for you and that you wanted to make music outside of the church and broaden your horizons?
Yeah, I grew up in church, leading worship in church. I think when you're a pastor's kid, you have a different view on what it means to be a staff member on a church. It's tough. Like it's different. My dad has amazing integrity. He's actually coming out on the tour with us, and he's gonna speak a little bit. But I left home when I was 17. I moved out, moved to an hour and a half away, and they hired me as their worship pastor at this church. And I did it for a year, but it just didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write songs that maybe weren't corporate worship songs. And I was in college at the time, and I told my dad and my now father-in-law, who's the president of the college I was going to at this point, I was like, I want to drop out of school and give me a year to get a record deal. And they're like, okay, all right, that's fine. Thinking there's no way that's going to happen. It took me about, I think it was a year and a half later-ish that I got a showcase with a record label, and they ended up offering me a deal. So it did happen. It was 2 years.
Yeah, so how did you get signed?
The booking agent heard the song, immediately sent it to Capitol Records, an A&R at Capitol. And then within 2 weeks, I was in Nashville meeting with them, and then we set up a showcase and signed January 2020.
Yeah, that's rad. And something I noticed too is that NF is obviously on Capitol Records, and you guys both make that similar type of music where it's deeply personal, it's honest, it's oftentimes very therapeutic music. And obviously NF is in the rap scene, but then you guys both have that kind of that raw, bold style, which I really love.
I've tried to get together with him a bunch of times, but it hasn't worked out yet. But he's definitely someone I look up to. And I always think that Christian music missed out on him because he wanted to do certain things, and they weren't going to play his songs on the radio, or some do though. But yeah, dude, he's awesome.
But let's talk about the debut single, No Hopeless Soul. This is still your biggest song on Spotify. Crazy. And I love the way you described your heart behind it. You said you don't fix yourself first. You start a relationship with Jesus, and then he fixes you.
Yeah, but that was my first single. We released it in the middle of COVID, which was very insane. And dude, to be honest, when that song came out, I did not like that song. It was for Christian radio, and it was kind of hard to get in it. And then I remember the song came out, and I found out that AA guys were using that all over the country as their fight song almost. They would play it at AA meetings. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to probably shut up. It was a song I really believed in the message of it, but I think a lot of it was just nervousness, releasing my own song. I had a bunch of TikTok covers. Right after I signed, March, I started posting covers on TikTok, and those started blowing up. And I was doing Billie Eilish covers or Imagine Dragons or David Bowie. And then I come out with this Christian song that's K-Love Christian. And I think it was a little confusing for people because they're like, what? I think that song, the way it's helped people and the message of it is something I still put into my music now. It's nobody's hopeless. We're going out on this tour. We're not playing churches. We're going to clubs and theaters and things. And I'm hoping people come and that's what they leave with, is that there is hope. There's a God. Jesus died on the cross and he's here to save us and he loves you. Yeah, at this point now, I'm really glad that was my first song because it kind of sets up what I want to say, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And then talk about going from doing EPs to Divided Frame of Mind. So what was kind of the writing process and going on behind the scenes during this time period?
It wasn't supposed to happen, that album. We had made an EP. There's 5 songs on it. And I think I had 4 songs left on my contract. Like we did a couple songs after the EP. I go into my record label. My managers are there and they're like, okay, what's our final 4 songs? We'll make an album. And I was like, actually, can I do like 8 songs or 9 songs and make something new? And we'll have a couple of those songs carry over. And for some reason they said yes. That album was so special. We had no budget. Ted T and Jake Holm were co-producers on it. And they just jumped on it and made it. And I'm so proud and so happy we did that. I don't know if I'd be making a second album if we didn't push to do that first album and the way we did it. But yeah, that was a crazy time for sure.
And then in a previous interview, you mentioned that there was like a pretty dark story of an almost home invasion. And if you don't mind sharing that story and a little bit about the song that came out of it, I think that could be really encouraging for people.
Yeah, I was in Indiana on tour with We Are Messengers, and my wife calls me at like 6 o'clock in the morning, just screaming, saying that there was a man that tried to break into the house while she was getting ready for work. She was like 4 months pregnant at the time. Yeah, that was super intense. And I get home and she is just completely filled with fear. Like, it wasn't like we couldn't just stay at the house. Like, we couldn't go to the grocery store, her parents' house or whatever. She was just terrified all the time. So I started writing songs just for her. And I had this idea, Rest in the Father. And that's really where that song came from, was just wanting to help, you know. But yeah, she's doing awesome now. We just had a son like 3 weeks ago. So we have 2 kids now.
Nice. Congrats. I want to talk about a couple of the highlights from Divided Frame of Mind. This is the one that I got into, and the first 3 tracks are really my favorite. I love the title track because it gives some of that like M83, the 1975, kind of a very like epic shimmering crescendo. So I love that one. And then The Edge is like a total 80s ripper. It's got really energetic, honest lyrics.
Yeah, I remember that time I was going to Nashville, and when you go to Nashville and write with songwriters, they all want the radio hit, which is great. Like, we all want to write a hit. But at that point, I was going to Nashville and I was like, can I just get some things out? And there's a bunch of guys that were down to do that. And that was one of the songs, The Edge. There's another one called The Heat and Out of My Mind. There's a bunch of songs that are on that record that are from there, including one that's on the new record that I saved. Yeah, that chorus was just in the thick of it. I was in this like 3-day period where I was having these super dark thoughts, the closest I'd been to suicidal. And so I wrote like 300 songs within a few months, just about that period of time. And The Edge is definitely one of those.
Yeah, and then Out of My Mind, that's my other favorite song on this. This one gave hints of like the band Camino. I don't know if you listen to them, but I love all those bands, you know, like kind of 80s inspired new wave of rock music. I love that.
Oh, heck yeah.
And then I love the lyrics where it says, with the light and the dark in a fist fight and more bad days than good, I need someone to shed some light. If I could do something, I would. Am I going too far outside the line to say I'm out of my mind? I'm reaching for a lifeline to pull me out of my mind.
Yep. That one originally was like a Nirvana Foo Fighters kind of song, which was, it was cool, but it was like super cheese. So I ended up just like completely changing it. The lyrics are all the same. I do that a lot. We'll write a song at one point with some writers, and then I'll take it home. And a couple months later, it'll just be same lyrics, all new melodies, all new like instrumentation and stuff.
And then one more highlight from that record, Run and Hide. This one's such a power ballad. I seriously had goosebumps when I first heard this song. So what's the story behind this one?
Dude, the story that we had originally, to me, doesn't even matter. I wrote it, I'm serious. I wrote it with this guy, David Spencer. And it was the first song we'd written together. And I finished it with my producers. But a couple days before I sent him the song, his daughters and his wife, they went to the Covington School in Nashville. That was the one that had the school shooter show up. I sent him this song like 2 days after that had happened. Luckily, his daughters, they were home sick, and his wife was homesick that day, which is crazy. But dude, the whole community was just rocked by that. Like, his daughters lost friends, like definitely a tough time. But I sent him that song, and the chorus literally says, I run, you don't, I hide, but you won't. So it's like, that's what that song is about now. Like, he calls me back right after he hears it, and he's just like crying. He's like, dude, my whole family was in the car. He's like, my daughters were in the back, like raising their hands and crying. So to me, that's what that song is about now. It's just like, even when there's no good left in me, like that line still is like so many feelings, like you're faced with evil like that. It's just like, there's no good thoughts that are going to come from that. But knowing that God doesn't run and is not afraid of those things. And there's other stories that he told me about that day that are crazy, insane, of like God intervening, that I won't share here, but it is crazy for sure.
Yeah, so it's almost like you wrote the song from a certain inspiration, and then the songs kind of take on the life of their own sometimes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And dude, sometimes I'm weary about sharing song stories, because I've listened to interviews before where an artist will share what they wrote the song about. I'm like, oh, that kind of ruins it for me now. Like, I thought it was about this, and you said something completely different. So I kind of want people to take their own stories and insert themselves in it, you know?
Yeah, totally. And so on that filmmaking topic, as you know, I'm a filmmaker. I tend to get inspired to write movies from listening to music. And so I'm wondering if there's been any movies that have inspired you to create music.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, Hans Zimmer, I just saw Hans in concert a few months ago, and that's by far my favorite concert I've ever been to. So a lot of things he's done, like all the Nolan movies for sure. A lot of the new record, like, it goes very cinematic, heavily inspired by those big orchestra. I mean, anything John Williams has done is incredible. Star Wars is a big inspiration.
And a follow-up question, if you could have your music a part of any movie, which would it be? If
I got something in a Star Wars or Marvel thing, that would be sick. Or like DC or Nolan. Any movie, bro. That would be awesome.
Any movie. And then what's your favorite song you've ever created? I know that's kind of a trick question, but I got to ask it.
It's called Hell or High Water. I actually wrote that with the band Camino guys, the drummer and a producer that works with them. It's not band Camino sounding at all. I brought them a track that was kind of like Camino-esque, and they're like, eh.
Like, we've heard it before.
Yeah, we do this every day. We don't want to do this. But I told them, I was like, I really want a song that's like acoustic, like verby, very like swimmy vocals, and kind of chill, but also like kind of dark sounding. But that one, and then the title track on the new record, it's called Trustfall, and I'm very pumped for that one to come out.
So the upcoming album, I am so stoked for this, man. Like, you've been 4 for 4 with all the singles. I think it's your best work yet, and I think that's really saying something. So this far down, this is such a triumphant battle cry of a song.
That was one of the first songs I wrote for the record. That was one of the ones I was mentioning I kind of saved for this record. It was something completely different when I wrote it with Gable Price. It wasn't really rock and roll at all, but changed the track. And he came up with like the hook of the song. And yeah, that one's just really fun. We're about to start rehearsing that one for tour, and I'm very pumped.
It's going to be a very powerful, loud song, I can imagine, live.
Yeah, that's the way we want it, dude.
Yeah, good. Can you recite the chorus for us? Because I think these lyrics are so powerful. Yeah,
it's I've been in it so deep. I've been in it so deep. Oh my gosh, brain's not working. I've been in it. Do you have them there?
Yeah, I do. All right, I'll read them. I've been in it so deep, everything's not as it seems. A part of me has to die. This world's been bleeding me dry. I've been living through pain, but I ain't got to live this way. God, I need you now. Will you lift me when I'm this far down? My favorite line in that song, though, is actually the first 2 lines of the second verse. Not every thought's going to lead to life. Maybe I'm scared of a paper knife. And I wrote the paper knife line down. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm just going to write it down, placeholder. And I showed it to Gable. He's like, actually, we should keep this. He's like, this is kind of sick. So we had that in there. I'll let you decide like what that means and all, but I think you could do some merch. That would be like the cheapest merch ever. You just make little paper knives, send them out.
Heck yeah, dude. That'd be great. Yeah. They could throw them on stage during the show. That'd be dope.
Have them rain from the ceiling. Yeah.
That's a lot of paper cuts, though.
And then talk about the song Your Heart. This one's very sensitive, very vulnerable.
I used to make music like that all the time, where I wouldn't do the growl, and it was more like pop. And I was like, there's no way the label's going to like this, though. So they're probably not. And then they ended up liking it. The day after it came out, it was on the radio, which was super sick, like on Sirius XM. So, yeah, that song is definitely vulnerable. There's a story behind it. Again, like, I don't always like to tell like the story behind the songs. I like people to put themselves in it. But that's part of what this record is. Everything has to do with trust.
And then talk about the next single, Signs.
Signs, I love that movie. I think there was a certain point where I was in a situation where I thought I was going to have to stop making music. This was after Divided Frame of Mind had come out. It was really scary. And Gonna Have to Trust You and Signs were kind of in that same area. But to me, it's like that kind of sets up where I wanted to go with the story, and like the concept of the record is it's all about faith. And Not By Sight's very, very similar to that one too.
Yeah, Not By Sight. This was the first track I heard from you, actually. So I'm a relatively new fan, but my friend Amber sent me this track, and as soon as I heard it, I was blown away. And then I did a deep dive on your discography, and I'm like, how come I haven't heard of this guy before? This is crazy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that one was fun. That one was just like an exercise in like, I just want to have fun making music again.
And I love the line here. I've been looking for light. Maybe it's not by sight. It's just so simple, yet it's so profound. And it even rhymes. So there you go.
I had the idea for it when I was getting this tattoo, Blind Cowboy. Live by faith, not by sight was sort of the concept for the tattoo. I was like, that's going to be a song. For sure it is. But I want the album title in this song. And we did it.
So there's a title track called Trustfall, and then there's also Gonna Have to Trust You.
Yeah. There's a lot of trust. Yeah. A lot of trusting in there.
And I love that line in Gonna Have to Trust You, where it's there's nothing else I can do. I guess I'm gonna have to trust you. And the single artwork too is so powerful, like falling up towards the sky with the hand of God reaching out. It's a really beautiful image.
Yeah. I almost made that the album cover, but they told me it was a single cover. We can't do that.
So why didn't they like that? Because personally, I like the falling up towards the hand as an album cover better. I gotta say it.
Dude, maybe we could change it. I'll call him right now.
Is it too late?
Jeez, I was like, bro, Spencer says we could change it. Let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Call up Capitol. Let's change it.
They really, like, everybody thinks the record labels are super controlling. They're not. They're really not. We could probably figure something out. Might be too late, but.
Yeah, so talk about the album cover you guys ended up going with.
Yeah, the original idea was like, I just want something where I'm blindfolded. And I didn't want to do, that's the reason why we didn't do the falling thing, because the album title was Trustfall. And I felt like if I was falling, I'd be like, that's a little on the nose. So, okay, I do remember that we talked about that. So like maybe some kind of blindfold or something. We were setting up this video shoot where we were going to do this idea. It was just going to be a simple photo of me blindfolded, and maybe we'd do something to it later. And I called my guy, a creative director, and I was like, yeah, so how are we going to do that? Like, we need like a cloth, like what do I wear, all that stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, we're going to do that thing where we blindfold you and set the blindfold on fire. I was like, we never talked about that ever. I was like, that's dope though. We should do that. We should blindfold me and set it on fire. And we did it like old school VFX. I'll send you like the behind the scenes. You might actually like that since you're a filmmaker, but the way he like blended it and like made the video part of it too is super dope.
Right on. Anything else you'd like to share about the upcoming release, Trustfall?
No, I don't. No, just listen to it if you want to, or don't.
Covered everything. There's going to be some surprises in there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The last minute and a half of the last song is probably my favorite.
Sweet. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. And we have the upcoming tour. What can you tell us about this? You know, how it came together, what the set will be like, and what fans can look forward to.
This is something I've always wanted to do. Go outside the church, play like some rock and roll venues. I can't believe that this tour is booked and that we're actually doing it, but it's going to be a great night. It's going to be hope-filled, but lots of rock and roll, and it's going to be fun. And I got a show. It's a good length. I think we're doing like 18 songs, something like that. So
yeah, that's a lot. I go to metalcore shows all the time, and the sets are, even the headliner, it's usually 10 or 12 songs, because I guess, that's a lot if you're screaming the entire time. And then, I go to these other shows that are not metal, and it's like, oh, they actually play like, 18, 20 songs sometimes. I'm like, that's crazy.
We'll have some breaks in there, and because my voice is so like growly and stuff, I have to drop keys. So we'll make sure it's healthy, but
sweet.
Yeah, it'll be a good length.
Well, man, I can't wait for it. I'm going to be there at the LA date, so I'm super looking forward to it.
Sick, dude.
It's going to be an incredible time, and I hope that this podcast, when it comes out, encourages people to buy a ticket, buy some merch, support, because you're really on such a beautiful journey, and you have such a gift. And so, I just want to encourage you in that, Stephen.
Dude, thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating/review. 5 stars is a power play. Be sure to follow the show and keep up with me on social medias at Spencer Whiteout to stay up to date. As always, stay tuned, stay hyped. That's a wrap.
And that's it.